Okay, perfect. Vera, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Um,
Very excited to
yeah,
be here.
and I'm so excited to learn about your career path and how you came to spearheading this global marketing, the two brands. So I'd love to just hear more about your journey.
Yes, absolutely. So my journey started a long time ago. I always had a passion for storytelling, and something that I even as a child already enjoyed was when everyone else kind of stopped watching TV when the commercials were on. I always enjoyed kind of hearing the stories that were crafted around brands. So that passion continued. So pretty early on, actually, even in school already, I knew that I wanted to work in marketing someday because I've always had a great admiration for the good storytelling of brands. And so my journey continued. I chose to study international business. And one of the reasons I did that was because growing up in Germany, I've always enjoyed traveling. I've always had the dream of going abroad someday. So it was clear for me that I would want to choose a career that would allow me to do that one day. So those two things combined led me to studying that. I studied abroad in Australia and in France, had some great opportunities to do internships abroad. And that ultimately brought me to marketing. And at some point in business school, we actually had the opportunity to do a workshop with L'Oreal, where it was our job, our task to build a brand. And so I really enjoyed the project. And after the project, I was offered to join the team. So that's where my career in the beauty industry started. And I was first working in the active cosmetics division, then had the opportunity to join their luxury brands division, and then ultimately chose though to join Henkel Beauty Care, which is a very big organization in Germany, or it's actually a global corporation, if you will, but their headquarters are in Germany. And so I had the opportunity to join the international marketing team there, which felt for me always like the United Nations of beauty care in a way. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm really sorry. Our iRobot just started. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Do you want me to start over again, or what would you like me to do? Oh, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry, I mute myself only because of things like that with my kids running in. At least then it doesn't
So
destroy your product. It doesn't.
so sorry.
So just take off from when you you joined the L'Oreal. You talked about how you joined the L'Oreal the team, and then you broke off onto that to your other company, the other company.
Exactly. So I'll do that. Okay. So I spent 3 wonderful years with L'Oreal working in their active cosmetics division, first in the sales and marketing team, and then in their luxury brands division. And then I chose to accept a position within Henkel Beauty Care, which is a global corporation that is has their international headquarters in Germany. So what I really enjoyed about working there in the international team was that it felt a little bit like the United Nations of beauty care, because even though that was over 10 years ago, actually, it was a team that was with members out of all different countries of the world coming together to build new beauty brands. And so I absolutely enjoyed working there in the spirit of that team and having the ability to think about concepts that were not just relevant for my own country, but would be relevant with marketing and consumer insights worldwide. And so that mentioned, it had always been my dream to go abroad. So when the opportunity opened up to join our newly acquired Schwarzkopf professional division in Los Angeles, that for me was a dream come true, because ultimately it brought both things together, working for an amazing beauty brand, but at the same time, the opportunity to go abroad and live in beautiful California, where I still live and which I absolutely enjoy. So it was a long journey really, but the dream or the passion for storytelling was there early on. The passion for marketing was there early on. And what brought me to the beauty industry was more of a coincidence, but I've stayed in this industry ever since, because I think that our industry is especially good at storytelling.
That's great. And so it sounds like you've pretty much kind of stayed under the same umbrella of brands, or are they different owned companies?
So in the international team, I worked on different brands. I worked on a body care brand named Fa. I worked on different hair color brands. And then here in LA, I worked first with Schwarzkopf Professional, and then joined as Henkel chose to acquire additional brands and bring them in their, integrate them into the family. I had the opportunity to work in a regional marketing role where I supported the integration of the brands Kenra Professional, Alterna, and Sexy Hair, just from a marketing perspective, welcoming the new teams to the family. And then Henkel acquired the brand Pravana. So I had the amazing opportunity to take on the role as VP of Marketing and support the integration of the Pravana team into the Henkel family. Before then, Henkel chose to do a joint venture with Esalon, which then brought me to Esalon, where I've been for almost a year now. I absolutely enjoy working in the direct-to-consumer business, and so that has been my role ever since. So it's been a long journey working for consumer brands, professional hair, beauty brands, and different retail spaces. So it's always been beauty, and a lot of it has been hair, but working for many different brands. And that is one thing that I absolutely enjoy, because they all had their very individual spirit, their very own culture. And that's also something that was always very important for Henkel in that entire journey, is to keep the DNA of each brand unique in their own, rather than merging them and making them a one size fits all, which I think is a good strategy, because that's what makes the brands unique and what makes people passionate about the brands.
Right. That's great. And so you've been with Esalon for a year, and in the past year, what have you brought to the table as far as marketing, or how has it evolved, especially with COVID right now?
Yeah, it's definitely been an exciting year. I think one important piece for me in that journey was that Esalon had this year marks the 10th anniversary of Esalon. Esalon is the first brand that builds truly custom, and actually we're still the only brand that has truly custom hair color. So one important aspect of that, though, is that when you look at custom, what was unique about 10 years ago has turned now into a brand attribute, because so many brands are out there that are talking about the fact that they are custom. So how do we differentiate in a world where everyone speaks about being custom, which used to be a USP, but is no longer, because so many brands talk about that. So what we've done is basically a workshop with our entire brand team, and discussed a lot about how we define our brand in this world. And one thing that we noticed is that when we look at our brand archetype from a storytelling perspective, we were kind of a little bit everywhere. We were talking about us being all about being individual and different. We're talking about ourselves as being a very technical brand. But really, when we looked at all the messaging that was truly relevant and important for our customers, we were actually a companion brand. So looking at the model of storytelling here, we are really a brand that is by the side of their customers throughout the entire color journey. We have personal colorists that are available to our customers. And so what we really identified there was that the core of our brand moved away from custom and individuality and something that seemed very technical to something that's very personal, for us to be really the personal colorist by the side for our consumers. And that really changed everything we did in our messaging, looking at, for example, our models being very approachable, relatable. They look into the camera, they smile at you, they're your friends, versus a lot of beauty brands that play from a very, very distant, kind of unapproachable image. So that's one of the examples of how we've really evolved our brand, and we will be sharing a relaunch with our customers very soon that will speak even more to the fact that we made every single item that is made just for you. So I think that's been one major element. The other component was really brand building during COVID times, which we knew was such a difficult time is still such a difficult time for so many people. We experienced actually a spike in demand. So knowing that we benefited from the situation, we wanted to take that as an opportunity to give back, because it really impacted all of our lives. And with our team, we discussed many different ways. So one example when COVID hit was that we had a plethora of gloves. So and we knew that medical supplies were tight. So that was something that was really important to us, is to be able to donate, not just financially, but also with medical supplies needed. So we donated gloves, but at the same time, we were discussing how many gloves can we donate. Are our customers going to accept that instead of 2 gloves, they're just going to get 1? So we chose to go that route. We chose to share with our customers to say, we love you, and we know usually you prefer to have 2 sets of gloves in your color set. But in this case, we've made the decision that we prefer to donate the gloves. So you will only have 1 set of gloves. And And we got so much positive feedback from that, because customers were seeing that we cared and that this mattered to us, and that we were able to make changes quickly to share medical gloves where they were needed the most. So those were a couple of examples where we had to adjust really quickly. We had a very high spike in demand, and our HR team had to hire many more colorists to support our team, many more customer service agents to ensure that we keep the same quality level. So it's been a very busy time for us. And then one other aspect was the launch of our new men's hair color line. So launching a brand during COVID was definitely an adventure. We were lucky enough that we were able to do the concept development, working with agencies, and also our photo shoots a little earlier on. But when it came to content creation for our acquisition advertising, all of that had to happen remote. So we reached out to different influencers to see if they would be willing to film how-to videos and campaign videos for us at home, safe at home in their bathrooms. And they actually did. So we ended up having some really fun videos, and they really played along and say, well, this is my tiny New York bathroom. It was a very real life scenario with a really small New York apartment bathroom, things like that, that I felt made, ultimately, was this picture perfect? No, but did it make us more real and relatable? So we're all in this together, and we are being creative to tell our story. Yes, I think it did. So those are some of the examples from the story of the past year.
No, that's exciting. I mean, I love the charity component to it. That's amazing. And then also the fact that you were able to start a whole other brand during it is great. But I'm curious, just as from a marketing standpoint, why would you choose to do a brand separately, like name it Colorsmith, versus just having another line within Esalon? I'm curious, like, is there a benefit that you would get from having it under Esalon, or what was the benefit of having it separately from Color? I'm not a marketing person, so I'm truly asking. I'm just curious why you would do this, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that probably have their go-to product, and now they have another idea that could kind of complement it, or it's a completely different customer base. And, you know, should they be just creating a whole new brand or incorporating it in their current brand?
Yes, absolutely. That's a very valid question. Actually, something we also have discussed quite a bit. So what ultimately led for us to be the driver in the decision was the following. As Esalon, the way our brand is built, it is a very feminine, appealing brand. Our packaging, our core colors are all in the world of the pinks. Our models are telling the story of how they're going through transformation and through change with new hair color. We're encouraging them to feel comfortable in their kind of doing hair at home in their own femininity. And when we look at the men's line, men actually have different insights when it comes to hair color. While women like to show the color change in many ways, usually, men prefer to handle hair color in a way that is rather discreet. Women will enjoy a compliment. Oh, you just came back from the stylist. You just changed your color. Men will be very hesitant about that. As we've noticed from many customer service that we've done, that was not just an assumption. And they prefer to have a more discreet approach to blending, where the fact that they color their hair is not obvious. And so that's a major consumer insight that led us to build two different brands, where Esalon will show beautiful color transformations on the coppers of the world, whereas on the Colorsmith side, we have built a brand and a gradual gray coverage program that will allow you to blend your grays over time, so that you really can avoid the moment that someone says, oh, did you just color your hair? Because our custom color technology will allow you to choose a program that allows you to blend your grays step by step. So with your first order, they blend a little bit. With your next order, they blend a little further. With your next order, it's even a little further. So again, a gradual transition program. So based on those two very different insights, we felt it was important to tell a different story. Something else that we noticed is that our advertising, where men, like kind of very real life imagery, seems to do very well with men. So it's also good for us that from a branding and imagery perspective, we have a separate brand there. So when you have a different core insight and a different technology that you can offer, and you even have different imagery that resonates in a different way with a new audience, it's probably good to build a brand separately so you can build an individual brand world for each one of them. With hair color being, as mentioned before, a fairly sensitive topic for men, that is not necessarily something that men want to speak about out of the gate or are proud of doing. It would probably be a different scenario in a world where your brand is a little more unisex and your insight and your consumer need would be the same.
Right, that totally makes sense. And
Yeah.
what's good is you probably get the benefit of already having everything kind of set in place where you're just kind of doing the same, setting up your company and being able to roll it out, leveraging off of your existing brand with just a new label or logo. So that's great. That's great. I love the concept of like the staging of the gray hair,
Thank you.
not just doing it all at once. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then was it harder to get, I would assume it wasn't as hard to get spreading the word because you already had an existing brand and also COVID, and you're using the digital marketing to get the name out for Colorsmith.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that was a big decision though for our organization. You're saying that we have built our organization to be like a multi-brand platform, if you will, because for many people in our team, it was a true job enrichment to now be working on 2 brands. So what we did not do was build a separate team for Colorsmith, but what we did instead was basically enriching most of the roles in our team so that people had the chance to work on both brands in different ways, building out their expertise in their different specific field even further. So we have only very few people in the organization that are 100% dedicated to either Esalon or Colorsmith. And so that being said, getting the word out, yes. In terms of an advertising side, the majority of our advertising is done through Facebook and Google advertising. Yet at the same time, we have expanded further into different opportunities such as brand partnerships to get the word out. And in addition, we also work with an amazing PR agency, Valentine's PR, who has helped us with fantastic editor relationships to get the word out as well. And so one thing that was important for us is, as we were telling and pitching our new launch to the press, is to build different stories around the launch. So not just coming with a message of here's your product, but basically building different stories around the product depending on which media outlet we were speaking to, which was very important for us. So yeah, we've done a lot to get the word out, but of course more to come. It's still a young brand and we're still testing a lot to make sure that we're testing different angles to see which ones are most effective.
That's great. So if you could give some advice to a listener has a new brand or is thinking about launching a new brand, what would you give as first advice for marketing or advertising to help them get their name out?
Yeah. I think the most important is the point where it starts is always the story. So that is something, especially in the beauty industry, but it applies to so many other fields as well, is the story has to be the right one. What are the values? What's the mission of your brand? What is the customer need that you're looking to fulfill? And with the strong story, that allows you and makes your brand interesting and differentiated and distinct. So it's important to have that foundation and stay true to it. Because the moment you start spreading out and you're telling one story here and one story there, or you switch too much, the story of a brand might get lost. So it's very important that on the one hand, you always need to adapt to change of what's out in the industry. So one example is social media 10 years ago obviously was non-existent. Many people were in denial that social media would become something very huge. Today, it's the end all be all in marketing, right? It's not the end all be all, but I got that wrong. Can we stop? Sorry.
Yes, you can start. Like the lifeline,
okay.
kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lifestyle. Okay, let me organize my thought for a moment. What advice would I give to people starting a beauty brand? Okay.
PJ, start here from my last question.
Thank you. Okay. So the advice I would give for people starting a new brand would be that it all starts with the story that you're looking to tell, because that is what makes your brand differentiated, distinct, and interesting. So build your core brand values, build the mission of what you're looking to accomplish and the customer need that you're looking to fulfill. And then you can start to get the word out there. And my recommendation would be to always test different angles. Some brands do extremely well in Facebook and social media advertising. Others make a good story in PR, or it could be both. Combine the mix of it. Find different places where your audience might be, look into brand partnerships or different platforms where you can get the word out. Of course, in a pandemic, it's more difficult than in usual circumstances, but it's always an opportunity to see to test different angles and then see what resonates most with your audience and where you get the best cost for the best cost per acquisition. And then at the same time, while it's important to stay true to your story and stay true to your values, always observe what is out in the world, what is changing in your surroundings, because we are in a time where change has never been faster than in today's world. So new platforms evolve, other platforms go. What worked yesterday well for your brand may already be a fad tomorrow. So it's really important that to constantly monitor your environment, stay connected on platforms such as LinkedIn, TED Talks, or some of my favorite places to get inspiration. To always know that how do you have to adapt your story to be successful in different environments.
Right. That's great advice. So a lot of times when people start with a brand, they're pretty limited on funds. And PR agencies are super expensive to hire as an outside consultant. Is that something that you would recommend to do for a brand if they have limited funds? Like that's where they should put their money towards, or is that something they can do on their own?
I think a strong PR agency with very good editor relationships is incredibly helpful. So if the funds are available, I think it's good. I think it's also always an opportunity to partner. For us, what we've noticed is it depends also. For me, I would recommend it depends on what the core message of your brand is and where people are going to be most likely to relate with your brand. Are people most likely to relate with your brand through media outlets, or are you better off going to, obviously not in COVID times, but are you in regular times better off to find people where they usually tend to shop, where they usually tend to research for information? And of course, social media is another tool that allows to target people very specifically. I would say look at your brand and your story and then evaluate where you have the highest chance of finding your customers and for them to be in a mindset where they're open to hear your story and see your offering.
So both answers you gave was very specific, like know your customer. So it sounds like it's very, very important to kind of really know your like avatar customer, however you want to call it, like down to the detail, right? Almost, I've heard before, you almost want to make a picture in your mind or a picture exactly who that customer is, and that's who you're targeting.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good to build that image, and of course, in some cases, you have a vision of who you hope your customer will be, and maybe that in reality your customer might be different from what you were hoping you to reach. But at the same time, though, I think it's important to paint that picture and to be very realistic with that picture. So make sure that you don't build a picture of someone that you just personally like, but think of where does this person shop? What are the struggles that this person has in everyday life? What are you trying to solve for them? So be very, very realistic in their day-to-day.
That's great advice. Okay. So, we're all trying to like juggle life, right? Especially being home. And you probably have tons of people that you're managing at work as well. How do you stay organized? Like, do you have any good tips? Are you a paper person? Are you a digital person? I think everyone's kind of always looking for, what do you do in the morning that makes you be able to pack it all in the day and be super successful? Like, what's the secret sauce? Like, do you have any secret sauce?
Secret sauce. I wish. Well, to stay organized, it's definitely a magical question. But the first tip I would have is differentiate and set long-term goals, midterm goals, and short-term goals. So let's use a brand as an example. You wish to do a relaunch in a year from now, or in a month from now. set what you're looking to accomplish and what the values and the messaging are, and then make your roadmap towards that. It also applies towards life. I remember this year, my husband and I will be celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary. When we just got together and we were super young, we were just thinking about all the things we wanted to do in life, and we were dreaming. We were thinking about, oh, maybe one day we can have kids, and maybe one day we can go abroad, and think of all these things, to a point where we're both very creative. We're both dreamers. We got almost overwhelmed. We have all these ideas. We have all these plans. What are we going to do now? So we actually made a little. We painted like a little picture, almost like a little mood board, to think about, okay, what do we want to do first? Because then looking at our time spent together 10 years later, there's so much that we've been able to accomplish, but it was also due to kind of a vision that we painted early on. So can you have dreams and can you think big? Yes, but sometimes it helps to kind of think of the steps that will take you there. And sometimes maybe you have to go one step at a time, but in order to do that, you have to have that long-term goal. So I think that helps me stay organized, whether it's in personal life, but also at work, to know where we're tracking towards, to be able to kind of reduce the workload into different steps. Another thing, very day-to-day, is beginning of the week, actually, my team and I, we always get together to talk about our biggest success from last week, our most memorable moment from the weekend, and our biggest priority for the coming week. So why is this helpful and important? Because speaking about the biggest success from last week allows, and it's a group of 19, allows to share and celebrate success together, to acknowledge each other, and sometimes to realize, because we're all perfectionists, we all work really hard, oh, I actually accomplished something really good last week, so I'm excited to share. It also helps us understand what everyone else has going on, because sometimes we get so busy, we are in our own bubbles, so we don't realize what everyone else is working on. So that helps us, especially in COVID times. The memorable moment from the weekend helps to say, and it's on purpose, we used to be the best moment, but sometimes it has to be a memorable moment, because when a team member has something hard happen to them over the weekend and life happens, it's a safe space to share, which helps people understand. That doesn't mean that the person will talk for hours and hours about their personal life. No, but it's to say something really tough happened to me this weekend, so it might be a little harder for me this week. That's okay, and that's what teams are there for. But most of the times people share just really wonderful things, and that helps relate and know what's going on in everyone's personal life, especially in COVID times when all our life right now with our team happens over Zoom. So there's really no space for personal conversation in a way, because the meeting starts to talk about business, the meeting ends, and everyone goes back to their work. So that allows that. And then the last and very important piece that I'm coming to is the priorities for the coming week. So every team member will share their most important priorities. It requires everyone to kind of set their goals for the week. And that is what I do myself, to say, what are the three most important things I need to accomplish this week? And then it goes even further down. And that's something where I love a traditional piece of paper to write down at the end of my day. What are the most important things that I have to accomplish tomorrow, so that when I start fresh in the morning, I will not get distracted by going into Slack or emails right away, but to look at what's important to accomplish, and kind of kick off those most important things first, before I then check what else has happened in the morning, or who needs, support from my side, or whatever it may be. So that was kind of a long story on how to stay organized, but
I love it. That was awesome. I love every part of it. And I love the 3 questions that you ask on the Monday morning meeting. I think that's fabulous. And it ties up everything, right? The success from last week, the personal note during the weekend, and then, tease up the week. How long do those calls last? I mean, 20 people, that's a lot. I mean, each person could almost be talking 5 to 10 minutes, right?
We actually keep it short. We try to accomplish it in like 30 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
So 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes, but usually we keep it fairly short, because, and that's something important that when we introduced it first, I think everyone has to enter the meeting being mentally prepared to bring their contribution. And there is definitely a risk that someone who is not entering the meeting prepared could start kind of mumbling along a to-do list, which I will, in a very friendly way, suggest to everyone to prepare well. So it's not like, let me read you my 10 things that I just, that I have to do, because it's about what's your priority. yeah, and I think it's helpful. Another aspect too, in order to time manage and stay organized, is also choosing or planning your day always wisely. So meaning, do I have to participate in every meeting? Probably not. Sometimes it's hard to let go, especially as our organizations grow or as we grow in our careers. We're used to being in every detail, but by being involved too much in every detail, we're also taking space and opportunity for someone else who is growing and would like to own a piece of the puzzle as well. So I think making wise decisions on where to involve yourself or where to transfer ownership and responsibilities, I think is really important as well, to manage your own time wisely. And yeah, I think that's also been helpful for me, always to always challenge myself to say, should I be participating in this meeting? Should I be delegating this task, or do I need to be involved? Yet at the same time, for my team to know, when you need me, I'll be there for you.
Right. It's a great balancing act, because you could just keep saying yes, right? And the next thing you know, you didn't get your work done and it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
especially with Zoom meetings. Everyone says like they don't even have time to go to the bathroom anymore because they schedule them on the hour, and then they last an hour, and then the next one starts. And then, you know, when people manage a lot of people, like they're like, I'm just on a Zoom meeting. I never even like went to go to the bathroom the entire time or got a drink of water. So
yeah,
it's so much harder. But this has been awesome. I really appreciate your advice and your time. And is there any other last words that you would either give to somebody who wants to kind of go through the corporate channel and become, you know, chief marketing officer, or wants to start their own brand and kind of go for it from that way?
The biggest piece of advice I would give is I mentioned before the aspect of the storytelling. So owning your story, build your story, yet at the same time, never be scared of change. The world has never been accelerating and changing faster than today. So know your surroundings and never stop learning. Find the right resources to educate yourself, listen to podcasts, learn from other people's stories. I mentioned TED Talks, Simon Sinek are great. There are great brand stories out there to learn from. So I think while you have to stay true to your own values, to always follow and observe carefully the world around you, so that you can pivot quickly, similar to how we just went through we're just going through a major pandemic, and it has challenged all of us. But by observing your surroundings well, I think, and by staying creative, you know, it allows to get through difficult times as well.
That's great.
Another aspect I would actually have is always allowing space for creativity. We get so busy with the day-to-day, so block time, take a piece of paper, don't forget to be creative and brainstorm based on the inspiration that you receive. Sometimes a piece of paper and a pen are all you need to find the best ideas.
So true. I really agree with that. This has been amazing. I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.